Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar, where we are going to be diving beyond just logins into your brokerage technology. Our two speakers joining us today will be sharing some insights on how to achieve true agent adoption. Today, I'm joined by Cheyenne Hamady, the founder and CEO of Rechat, an AI-powered platform that was revolutionizing how real estate professionals manage marketing, CRM, and transactions. Rechat is known for its high agent adoption across users, so Cheyenne has tons of insight to offer on this subject. We're also joined by Derek Taylor, a seasoned real estate professional and innovative leader at the forefront of AI and emerging technologies. As the vice president of T3 Sixty, Derek brings deep technical expertise to areas such as predictive analytics and adoption. So we truly have two experts leading our conversation today. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Derek to get us started.
Thank you, Charlotte. Really excited to have everybody here on the webinar today. We kind of came up with this idea, the idea of really diving deep into tech adoption at a really crucial time in our industry. We're seeing overall about 50% of brokerages are relatively unprofitable right now after some other studies that we've done. And we've seen a lot of our broker clients kind of questioning the investments that they're making in almost everything. And one of them is in technology. And the question, I think the main question that they have about the use of the technology that they have chosen to adopt is it being used? Is it being adopted by our agents? And is it, driving business outcomes for us? So it's interesting for us to kind of head down that path of discovery. And it really starts with the very, very beginning of why did we even bring technology into the residential real estate space? And initially there was all these amazing kind of cool technology products that were coming to the market, and the brokers felt that they needed to have them. They were obliged to have a technology tool that their agents could use to help them with recruiting and client service, et cetera. And then over time, they've been able to kind of measure or observe the results of the applying that technology to their business. And now we've approached this area of optimization, where we're really trying to optimize the technology that we're using for our agents and for our consumers. So the paper that we worked on with Rechat as a professional company in the industry that's providing a tool that we see getting really good adoption, we wanted to pull them into this conversation and let them kind of lead us down this path of what agent adoption looks like and how it's working. So it's been really exciting to kind of go through this process, do some additional research into how this works. And what we found overall is that traditional adoption metrics and have been vendor defined and superficial. If you look at it in the way that we've been looking at it in the past. So, login frequency, basic user usage statistics, those are old ideas now, and we need to really change that. They miss true adoption insights like workflow integration, enhanced productivity, strategic business outcomes, revenue growth, agent retention, recruiting, those things that are not necessarily being measured. So that's why we wanted to do this paper. And Cheyenne, you guys did a really amazing job of doing some additional research around tech adoption. I'd love to share some of that with us.
No, absolutely. Thanks for that, Derek, and thanks for Charlotte. Thanks everybody for joining us today. I think for me, when we started the conversation a while back, and we obviously as a company focus a lot on adoption, start with what is the definition of adoption? Because I think it's a little bit vague. The word gets around a lot, but do we have a clear understanding of what adoption is? Because if we bring that down to measuring one thing, which we talk about a little bit more, it may be misleading. And I think the standards of what adoption is perhaps is set by tech vendors, which may be a little bit misleading. So we want to talk about that a little bit more. You touched on it. I think the simplest way to say it is, are the tools being used? That's adoption, right? Are people using the tools and then taking it further? Are they showing results? Are they having an impact on their business? So we're going to talk a little bit about this as part of kind of doing this study. We joined forces with T3 Sixty. We ran this survey. It's the largest and the survey that's been done on this topic. We did this on with the help of a lot of the leading brokers in the United States. And I think a lot of the learnings that we took away from it was actually pretty interesting, both in terms of how things are being measured, are they even meaningful, and what should we really do? So we'll go through some of those learnings that we found today. And then what I'm going to do at the end of it, because is to show you kind of a little bit under the hood of what Rechat does to drive adoption and why we've kind of seen more success on this topic. I'm going to jump into this. By the way, so there's so the study is a fantastic study. It's a playbook for you. The QR code does not take you there. It takes you somewhere actually pretty cool. We're gonna, I think Charlotte just shared the link with you. There is a self-assessment you can do on adoption. Okay, it's a 5-minute thing. You go in. It's a bunch of very simple questions you can answer, and it will give you a report on how well your tools are being adopted and what you should do from then on. I highly recommend anybody on this call or anyone that gets their hands on the link to do this exercise for their brokerage. It only takes a couple of minutes, but I think it's extremely insightful. So this QR right now will take you to that survey. You don't have to take the survey now, obviously, because we want to go through this and share all the findings with you. However, I think it's a great thing to do. And then after, you can obviously download the white paper itself. With that being said, I'm going to jump into it, Derek. If you're good, let's share some of the insights with the folks.
Yeah, let's go. So the recent study from the survey, which was done for brokerages in the United States, we were looking at what the desired versus the actual adoption was. And 59% of those surveyed considered 50% or higher, a percentage of agents adopting their product as an acceptable KPI. And they also found that 41% of them were actually reaching the 50% adoption rate, which I thought was amazing, because for the longest time in the industry, and I think a lot of people are talking about this, still, they think that 25% is like the magic number, right? If you can get to 25% of your agents using the product, then you're in. So what hasn't really been measured well or even talked about well is what is adoption. And I think that's showing here, right, Cheyenne, that that 59% wanting 50% or higher adoption, that's great. And I think that should be, 100%. But then the 41% thinking they've actually achieved that, I would question that a little bit. I would bet that they probably aren't.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome. There's a couple of key points here, I think, in this slide that my takeaway, right? So the first thing is that both me, Derek, talk to many brokers, thousands of brokers in the industry all the time. And I do agree with them that I think the general acceptance level is that the adoption level in the industry is 20%, meaning that only 20% of the agents within a company are actually using the tools, right? Now, but when surveyed, leaders are looking for a much higher number. It's still pretty, 60%. They're not looking for 100%. They're still happy with 60%. But I think what stood out here between the two stats is the gap between what they're hoping to achieve and what's actually happening in some of these cases, which is still a significant gap. But to your point, and I think that's a key point here, is that even the 41% here that are achieving the adoption levels they need, the question is, how are they measuring the adoption, right? Are they measuring the correct way? And are they truly achieving the adoption level and adoption period, or are they misled with the metrics they're using? And I think that was like one of the key learnings here for us. So going to this next slide, if you want to speak to it, Derek, I think this kind of starts unpacking that.
Yeah, so perfect. So the measurement methods, then we asked them what their measurement methods were, and 32% of them were using monthly average logins as an adoption metric, or the main adoption metric. 23% of those surveyed didn't measure adoption at all, which is terrifying to me. And 32% of them were using action-based metrics email sent, contacts added, etc. That those are, I think, understandable. Like, I wasn't too surprised by those responses, except for the last one. I am surprised that 32% of those surveyed were actually getting a little bit deeper, which I think was encouraging.
Yeah, I think one of the things that resonates probably with everyone here is like I think that what I've personally seen a lot again in the industry, there's two real cases, right? Like either people are not really tracking adoption to begin with, or they're measuring adoption based on login. That's like really the heart of the message here, right? So they're looking at login, and login really doesn't mean much. It means somebody opened up a tab, right? It doesn't really speak to whether the platform is being used properly, whether it's helping the agent to create a better experience for their clients. Is it growing their business? Is it lowering the cost? All the key elements that you care about, why you went and got technology to begin with, right? Is it helping with recruitment, retention, all the things that we care about, and why we even start buying tech for. And it all distills to this one thing: are people logging in, right? And that login can be extremely misleading. And I think that's one of the key things that we wanted to kind of highlight here as part of the learning.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think
That
if you're counting logins, you're letting those logins lie to you. Uh, and that's difficult, kind of pill to swallow. I mean, I'm not going to name any names, but I do know that there is one tech vendor out there in the space that says overall they have a really high level of adoption. But if you look deeper into what they're measuring, they're actually measuring whether or not the person has ever logged into the platform at all. So one login would count as full 100% adoption. And I think that's misleading. It's not fair. And yeah, it tells the story that they want to tell, but it definitely doesn't tell a story that the brokers want to tell.
So that's one login for the year, or one login
One
monthly,
login
or
ever. Yeah. So
ever?
for example, if when you launch a new product with a brokerage, you do have a lot of agents who log in for the first time because they walk you through, all right, here's how we onboard and here's how we log in. And so the minute they logged in, then they're going and saying from that point going forward, even if the contract is 12 years long, that agent
You've logged in
never
once.
logged in again, but that
That's
agent
a
considered as 100% adoption. Yeah, that's terrible.
yeah. And I love this picture because it I think it puts it in perspective, right? Like if you just show up to the gym every single day, but this is what you end up doing, having ice cream and not really working out, just because you checked into the gym, you're not going to get fit, right? And I think this is unfortunately the story in our industry, that a lot of brokers want to stay fit, but they're spoon-fed the wrong metrics and how they can measure the adoption usage. And I think the conversation of usage, it's there's a concept in the world of product development. It's called jobs to be done. It's a pretty fascinating concept. It came out of Harvard a while ago, and it's actually quite insightful. And the idea started with this. They said, what do we buy a drill? Why do we all have a drill in our house? We have a drill because we need a hole on a wall, right? We buy a drill, we put it in a closet for an entire year, and every once in a while we use it to make a hole in a wall. But the only reason we buy it is because we need the hole in the wall. Now, in the future, if there's any other way to get the hole in the wall, that's what we're going to do, right? So the idea here is that, why do we get technology? You get the tools to recruit or to retain. You get the tools to help your agents to do better job in marketing their listings. If you're a luxury brokerage, if you're in the high-end kind of market, then your brand is everything to you, right? So you get tools, or you must be getting technology that helps all your agents to be consistent with your brand, to continue kind of extending that brand promise to the clients, right? They are the last mile. Your agents are the people that really create as the connection. They are the connection between the brand and the clients. And so these tools need to do that, right? So ultimately, what I'm getting at is that you want the tools to be used. And it doesn't have to be the agent that uses the technology. We work with a lot of brokers that are now with this new concept we have in our product. For instance, it's called full service brokerage mode, right? And there's a lot of brokers that are now offering a lot more services on behalf of the agent. The admin goes in, they do a lot of the work, they do the marketing, they help with relationship management and all sorts of different work for some really good agents, right? They take the work off of their plates. That's adoption. They are using tools to grow their business, to grow their brand, to offer a better experience. There's a lot of tools. We do the same. There's a lot of other products out there that automate the experience for the agent. So just logging in doesn't mean that you got to do that on your own. As long as the work gets done for you, whether it's by the tech company, by your admin team, by your assistant, or by the agents themselves. But is the tool, is the technology being used and utilized to actually help you grow your business or reduce the cost or whatever it is that your goals were to begin with when you got into it? And login is literally the last thing that can really define that for you or give you that kind of understanding of it. So I like this one, the hard truth. Adoption is not an agent problem. And I mean, Derek, I think this is a big, bold statement, right?
Mhm.
We think it's a leadership, process, and accountability problem, right? And I would love to take a minute and talk about this because I think one of the most common thing, I've been in this industry since 2009, 15, 16 years. And I know you've been here forever. We're dinosaurs. But I think one of the things that's commonly known is that everybody points at the agents. Agents are not tech savvy. Agents don't want to use tools. Agents suck at using whatever. But I think it starts with the leadership, right? And it starts with what we're feeding.
Yeah, it has to. I think you've got we've been blaming the agent too long for not adopting the technology. And that came down to blaming the CTO or the head of education, whoever it was that was supposed to be teaching this, or then, for brokerages who are leaning more on the vendor to help drive adoption. But it all came down to whether or not the agent's actually doing the work to accomplish things. And I think that part of it's been because we've asked the agent to do things that they're just not going to do, and it's not an agent problem, it's a human problem. We're asking humans to do things that they're just not necessarily good at doing or even have any desire to do. Most agents get into real estate because they want to help people achieve home ownership. That's their main goal. And there are things that you have to do to achieve goals, but the idea of, jumping into your CRM and changing the status of the last 15 people that you called, and then making sure you call the right people, and then logging all the calls, and then all the things that they're asking you to do is just something that's probably not going to get done. So you have two choices, right? You find some technology that makes it easier for that to happen. You provide a better experience for the agent so that they can do it, or you hire staff members to do it inside of the platform for them. The platform then becomes basically just a database that stores information, but it's not doing anything that's changing behavior. And I think that if you really look at technology, technology is there to change the behavior of people, whether it is to get them to engage in talking to more people to drive more sales, or if it's getting the consumer to engage in more conversations with the agent. That's where technology is really supposed to help. So getting if the leadership buy-in is to change agent behavior only in a way that's unnatural, it's not going to happen. But getting the leadership to really understand how technology can and should be used, and what adoption really means, and then having them 100% bought in and funding that as well, then you have the ability for an organization to change lives faster, right? And I think that's
Mhm.
kind of where we're headed. The leadership is the most important part of this. It has to be top down. And that specifically happens not just in more traditional tech, but also as we get into AI, because there's so many things that are happening inside in the AI as well. But I agree with you. Leadership is the number one, then process. I think you said that really well.
Yeah.
Leadership should determine what the process is, and is that process helping achieve the goals that leadership wants to have in place? And then are we
I mean,
holding everyone accountable?
let me ask you a question. So, just as in, let's say I throw a party. I invite you and 10 other people over, and I feed you guys, and then you all go home and get food poisoning. Whose fault is it?
I would say it's either you or the caterer, but I'm going to blame you, and so is my attorney.
But it's not you as my guest,
Yeah,
right?
it's not me, right?
Yeah. So I mean, if the food's no good, then you all get sick. So I think that's where it starts from, right? What are the tools we're giving? So most of the products in this industry, they literally die at rollout. Why? And it's not lack of training. It's more lack of purpose, right? If the tool is not integrated, if it's not working as part of your system, if there's a lot of it's hard to do uploads and downloads and logins and again log into multiple places and everything is all over the place, right? If it's not loved by the agent, if it's not simple to use, right? If it's not led, right? I think none of these are going to help it to get adoption, right? These are all friction that gets in the door. So I mean, there's countless examples of products being purchased across the board, and they never get adoption from the get-go because they were just not the right fit and they were not treated properly from the beginning in terms of how I was introduced to the company. I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about we are unpacking some of the problems, and we're definitely going to unpack some of the how it should be approached and the solutions. But I think it's extremely important to kind of take this in and understand that, hey, this is a systematic problem from the very top of the funnel before the tools even get into the system, and then
Yeah.
from then on, and a lot of it has to do with the leadership and what they can do to impact it.
And partially, I think the leadership has brought in features that they thought was going to be useful for the agent. And overall, you see the industry buying features. Like the feature is the thing that gets them interested in the product. What they're not looking at is that feature part of an overall solution. So instead of buying features, we should be looking at, are we buying solutions?
Solutions, and are we creating an ecosystem? I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And where do you think this idea of features is coming to their leadership a lot of times?
I think they come from the leadership's desire to differentiate themselves from the rest of the industry, right? So it's easier to do it feature set by feature set because whatever the feature is, it's new and exciting, and let's bring the new and exciting thing in. It's shiny, it's fun to talk about, it gets everyone excited and moving in one direction. But that it's like just eating a small snack. It doesn't fill you up, it doesn't keep you moving forward, and it definitely doesn't provide sustenance, right? So the idea of taking that as part of a greater solution, that feature should be part of a greater solution. And it needs to be, as you'll go down, you'll see how that integration rolls into that as well.
Yeah, and I think historically one of the things I notice is that there's also a lot of strong voices and strong opinions in our industry, right? So if you have a couple of good agents, and if one of them is pushing to get this next interesting shiny thing, as you said, and leadership may want to do that because they're hearing it from a good agent. But one of the funniest experiences I had uh, when early on, especially I would run into a lot of folks that would give us some great ideas, right? They're like, listen, like, I'm going to tell you something. This is the best idea ever. If you guys build this in your product, you'll be $1 billion company, right? And they would really I mean, agents, you know how they're amazing at selling because they're personable, they connect with you and you buy into it. So I would get all excited. And then slowly I started asking them a question. I'm like, okay, this is awesome. If we go out and build this thing, are you going to be using this? Is this going to be like your thing? And I tell you 99.9%, the answer would be, I don't know if I would be using it, but I think the industry would love it. I work a little bit differently, right? So
Yeah.
so there's a lot of feedback that comes in. But when it comes, when it gets real to using it, I'm not sure if it's always the same.
Yeah, we'll go back to that last slide if you don't mind, if you can, because there's a couple other things that we have. Adoption again can't be delegated to the trainers, and that has to be said. I think a lot. Like we have to keep saying that a lot because I think we've set unreal expectations as a brokerage to make the trainers responsible for the adoption. And I don't think that's necessarily fair. And then the next step down is no integration equals no adoption. That again, the integration not just into other products or accounting software or whatever it is that you're talking about, but also the integration into the agent's workflow.
Workflow, yeah.
That has to be the most important part of it. If agents don't really care necessarily what the name of the tool is that they're using, all they want to know is if I click this button, do I get a CMA or do I get a nice marketing piece, right? That's what they care about. So putting it into the workflow where the agent can accomplish the thing that they want to accomplish, that's where it really makes sense. And I think, as you said before, if agents hate it, they won't fake it. They just won't use it. Initially, they're going
That's what I love about agents.
to.
That is actually something I love about agents. I mean, so I just on that point with the no integration, no adoption, I think, or what you were saying 2 seconds ago, Johnny Ive, designer at Apple, once said something that I loved. He said, a really well designed or technology is one that you don't even sense it's there. It's behind the scenes, it's doing the job, and it's just making it easier for you. I don't think there's anybody in this world that says, I need to have a CRM. I need to have whatever platform. Like nobody wants any of this stuff, right? The
No,
only reason you get it is because you want the end results. You want to stay on top of your relationships. You want to be a better agent. You want to be mindful. You want to, you want to do ninja selling. And then, so the way to do that is, you can't do it at scale, is to use tech or soon use AI, more and more AI, right? So these are a means to an end on their own. They don't mean nothing, right? So I think making sure that these tools are, as you said, are built into their workflow of the agent. So they're not going out of their way and changing how they work to just adopt to this other product to make it work, I think goes a long way, right? And I think those subtle subtle points need to be built into the user experience. It needs to be built into the training experience. And we'll talk a little bit about training. I mean, we say it's not about training. Training is extremely important, right? But also just training features is not important. You got to train best practices. If I keep teaching you how to press buttons in my product to send an email, oh, there's only 2 buttons you press and you send the most beautiful email. Yeah, but am I teaching you also best practices of the trade, right? What is this? What is an effective email, right? Not just how you shoot an email out, but what's an email that's actually going to turn eyes and get somebody to actually message you back and convert a lead or get your listing sold. That's the piece that needs to be communicated. Which is often missing, I think, in some of these trainings.
yeah, I mean, technology, honestly, the purpose of technology is to get you out to get you to stop using technology and have a face-to-face conversation, right?
Yeah.
Technology is just there to drive a face-to-face conversation. End of story. If it's not doing
Mhm.
that, it's not working. And that's why the agents, if it requires you 6 hours of, manipulating things on the computer, they're just not.
Yeah, yeah, you're adding work. And to that point, one of the things, this last one that says if agents hate it, they won't fake it. One of the learnings I had in the industry is that, especially in this industry, the level of tolerance is extremely low for things not working. If your product is buggy, if the solution is not working, the first time the agent gets into it, they try to do something and it's not working, it's really hard to get them to come back and use the product again. It's really hard to convince them to say, because they're busy. I mean, there's a million things going on. And unfortunately, I think over the years, a lot of agents have lost confidence of the tools they've been given for many different reasons, because it's hard to use or it's not working or it's not connected to my MLS or whatever it is that they're doing, right? And I think, and that's what it is. And if they hate it, they're not going to fake it. They're literally going to just walk away from it, right? And it takes one bad move, one bad experience, one bug, one that's it, and you've lost them. And I think that's extremely important when considering what products to use and what solutions to introduce to agents. That is it truly baked into what you do, into your brand, into your company. And we'll speak about that a little bit more, because if it truly is baked into your system, then your leaders should be also using it one way or another. They can't just be telling everybody. You got to lead by example, right? And in our world, the best examples we always have folks that are getting, at Rechat, we do about 75% or higher in majority of our clients in terms of adoption. The ones that actually get even 90% or more are always consistently the ones that have the leaders using the product. They do all their internal communication with it. They manage their listings internally, promote it internally, all sorts of different things that they need to do with it. And I think that's an extremely important component. And agents look up to that and they see it's being used, not just being promoted internally.
Yeah, 100. It needs to be, again, in their workflow. It needs to be something that they want to do every day. I think we used this analogy when we were talking about getting this set up. But if you tell the agents that, here's a really good nourishing meal that you should eat, and it will make you healthy, and then you hand them a piece of cardboard, they're still not going to eat it, even if it makes them healthy, right?
Yeah.
Same
Yeah.
thing.
I mean, you got to give agents tools that they love to use. They got to be proud to log into the product, right? If you're forcing them because you say it's good for them, to your point, but it doesn't feel right, they're not going to do it. I had a brokerage prior to Rechat, and we rolled out Salesforce, And at the time, our intention of this rollout was to give a ton of insight and analytics and other things to our management. And the agents literally felt like they are always doing us a favor using the product because we needed to do something with it. And it was just a drag for everybody, right? It's gotta feel right for them that it's helping them with their business, and it's built for them in an easy way for, as you said, the workflows and everything that they're doing. That makes it a lot more smoother.
Yeah, Salesforce is an amazing tool. It's really powerful, but there's a multi-million-dollar market created by people who don't want to use Salesforce in the way that Salesforce was built. So they just
Yeah.
they try and build a better user experience, and there's millions of dollars being spent just on that one product to try and make it easier to use. It's
You
crazy.
know, it's so funny you say that. We had 4 people in our company that were called full-timers, that were called Salesforce engineers. Their job was to every day to make Salesforce, massage Salesforce so it becomes a little bit more useful for us, because it was, and embedded more into our workflows. All right, let's keep going here.
Perfect.
Want to speak
So
to this?
yeah, so the shift here that we're working towards, this optimization part of the 3 O's, which obligation, observation, optimization, is to optimize the products that we have in our tech stack. And I think the initial response that the brokers have, this gut response is, you know what, if my agents aren't going to use it, I just don't want to pay for it. And so I'm just going to only pay for the seats where the agents are using the product. And I think that's, again, does it accomplish um, the end goal of, like, getting rid of the expense of the tech that you didn't feel was working? It does, but it never handles the original purpose of the adoption or the purchase of the tech in the first place, which was to drive value to the organization, right? So if you're just getting rid of the seat, you're just getting rid of the potential value as well. So the shift we have now is, let's not necessarily focus on cost cutting, but value creation. In all reality, a investment in a technology product should have a measurable return on investment. It should show uh, positive gains to the business's bottom line, and it won't do that if no one's using it. So what, building ecosystems that agents actually want to use, or that the agents don't actually have to use, where there's some AI agent in there that's doing some of that work for you as well. That's another a way to get adoption into the product. It's still 100% adoption because the product is doing the things you wanted it to do to get you to the business goal that you had in mind when you bought it. And I think that's a really positive shift for us. We're starting to see, let's not just beat the agent over the head until they finally do what they need to do or not and quit. Let's actually find the right tools that do create value with us that agents love to use.
For me, this has always been like mind-boggling, but it's kind of like selling your tires to buy more gas, you know? Like you're not going to go far if the goal is to use technology to impact your business in a meaningful way, or the business of your agents, or the experience of your agents, or the experience of their clients. Taking away the tools from them is not going to help with that, right? So it's very counterintuitive in that sense. And obviously, if it's the wrong tool, then it should be taken away from everybody. And one of the things that we commonly hear from brokers is, well, X percentage of our agents don't really do any business. All they do is they just hang their license. I mean, to me, you either let go of those agents. That's what I would do in my brokerage. Or if they're not doing any work, right? Or they should not just be even counted as part of your roster. I mean, they're literally not active. They're not working, whatever that is, outside of those 10%. And it shouldn't be 5-10% more than that, because then you got a serious problem. If outside of that, then everybody else you should really drive to get them on the tools that you have, whatever that is that you believe in that works, instead of trying to quickly identify who may not be the early adopter of the product, and then try to get rid of them on a seat just to save a couple $100 on the seat. Because if this works, the result should be much bigger than what you pay for these products, right? I mean, and I think this is the money slide for me. This is one of the last stats we're sharing from the white paper. And there's a lot more in the white paper. So again, we share the link. I highly recommend you read this, but this is a money slide. This is from the people that actually got some adoption out of their tools. And 70% of them are saying that, hey, we see a positive impact on agent retention, right? And any broker I speak with, retention or recruitment is top of mind. You know, that's just the name of the game. If it's not for this year, make sure that is top of mind for you. And you know, 70% see, and 70% in this industry, that's a huge, I mean, in any industry, that's a huge impact. 68% are seeing an actual positive improvement on the sales front, right? Like on the growth of the business. So I think these are extremely meaningful stats here. And I think this is the heart of the matter, is that, hey, if you are able to drive true adoption, you know, the results are what you need, right, to survive and grow in this business and be competitive in this business, right? And we see that, I mean, you guys do a fantastic job ranking all the top brokers in the industry and all and assessing those. And I think we see this more and more to be forefront of really leading by saying that, hey, we are thinking technology, we're thinking whatever it is that they are, because if you're in this business today, you understand that it has a meaningful impact for you if you can actually use the right tools.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So the first stat, I love that 70% of them saw a positive impact on agent retention. So I think the reason for that is when you recruited that agent, your recruiters are really good at giving the value of your organization. Part of the value that they communicated to the agent who was coming aboard was that we have amazing technology that you are going to love to use. When the experience isn't what they promised, it's a broken promise to the agent, and it's not coming from the recruiter, it's coming from you as a leader, right? So those agents who are not leveraging the tools that you have feel like you lied to them and they're going to leave. But the ones who are getting higher adoption, you've actually honored the promise that you made when you recruited them. That's a really big deal. In addition to that, 68% of them showed an improvement in sales for the agents. It's not any coincidence that 68% is very close to 70%, because most agents want to be more productive. And it's even better than that is brokerages with higher agent or higher per agent productivity are more profitable. So this is the biggest win-win-win situation ever. You've got the agent.
Can you repeat that again? That last time you said?
Yeah. So basically, brokerages with the highest per agent productivity have the highest profit margins. And in a world where what we've seen, about 50% of brokerages in the United States right now are unprofitable, driving per agent productivity.
And that's a recent stat, no? 50% are not profitable.
We've done a couple of research studies.
Is everyone taking that in? 50% of brokerages in our industry today, this year, are not profitable. They are not profitable.
Yeah, and I think we're starting to see, some of that when it comes to mergers and acquisitions, where we've had, brokerages who are brokers who are aging out, right? They're really ready to sell their brokerage, but because of commission compression and industry changes, it's been harder and harder for them to make a profit, and they're stuck kind of with an older business model. And now they're also looking at something that's more difficult for them to sell. So their exit's not what they wanted. So you can drive the value of your company is based upon the profitability of your company and the multiplier of the EBITDA that you've generated. So again, it all goes back down to adoption of technology products that provide a positive impact on agent retention and agent production, drive higher profitability for the company, and drive higher value for your organization. So eventually, if you do want to have an exit, you'll have a better, higher, more profitable exit. So all of that comes from
and that's the flywheel. That's the flywheel. That's how you get retention as well, right? When you do that.
Absolutely. And you recruit more agents who like to work with more top producing agents, right? And overall, then it's easier for you to be more profitable because successful people want to work with successful people. And if you can prove and show success,
Mm-hmm.
you're
Mm-hmm.
you're you're just making it easier. That network effect takes over and your company just starts to grow on its own even. It's
Yeah,
exciting.
no, it is. I actually think that in order, especially in competitive markets today, in order for your broker and your brand to be relevant, technology's got to be a part of your pitch, right? I have a tough time seeing somebody saying, "We don't believe in tech. We don't have any tools, but we got a legacy brand or whatever we have," right? That's not enough. I think in any competitive market now, because I mean, you guys reported anyway, so you need the tech, right? You need the tech in order to recruit. But I think you brought up a good point that if you don't have the right solutions, so now I see a lot of brokers missing that part in their recruitment, which can be extremely effective because a lot of your competitors are doing that, right? That are coming in with that pitch that, hey, not only we got the brand, not only we got the marketing and the support and the services and all of that, but we really got the right solutions for you to help you grow your business and stay relevant. I mean, this is how you stay relevant in this market right now. But to your point, if you also, so some people miss it in their pitches, and you're probably missing a lot of potential hires there, recruits there. But then if you also just pitch it and you bring them on, and you're not able to serve that properly, then now you've mismanaged expectations, right? And I think that I don't have that. You may have this stats, but uh, majority of agents that leave transition out of a brokerage, it happens I think during the first 90 days or so of joining a new broker, that they decide, they go back or they go somewhere else.
Yeah, actually, I don't have the number in front of me, but I saw it recently. The number of top producing agents leaving and going to other brokers has greatly decreased, right? So agent mobility amongst agents who are being productive has gone down right now in a volatile market, which I think is really interesting. Um, and that's encouraging. So if you're providing the experience that the agent is wanting, it's driving them to be more productive. They're less likely to leave your organization as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we have a couple of kind of some of them may be obvious, but the reasons of why removing seats is not the answer, right? To not just getting adoption, but if you want to touch on some of these, Derek.
Yeah. So one of the things that, I've seen a lot of organizations out there saying, look, we'll offer different options for our agents, which I think it's a solid idea. But the problem I think is that if you're offering like 12 different options of technology and the agent gets to pick which one they want to use, then you've got to provide 12 different ways to support that. You've got to 12 different education tracks for that. You have to it inhibits scalability. It's very difficult to scale that model where you're having to teach all those different things. In addition to that, it creates 12, again, at least 12 different data silos that are really difficult to manage. And the data in today's world is really, really, really important. So the more data that you have, the more business intelligence you can glean from that data, the better any kind of AI that you put in to help you run your business can run because it has more data. And basically every single AI model out there runs on data. And if you don't have data in a centralized, easy to access location, it's difficult for you to, number one, glean business intelligence off of it. And number two, leverage artificial intelligence to help you with operations and all the other things that it does a really good job for.
Mm-hmm.
It also, I think it does disincentivize adoption, again, because you have no really way to support them at scale. It does provide some brand inconsistency as well. I think overall, and that we've done this for many, many years as an industry. We've said that our clients as brokers are the agents. And I think that's important that agents are made to be kind of the center of your organization. But in all reality, your client is the consumer. And the agents are happy with letting you make your client the consumer because that means that they have more clients, right? So if everything that you do and everything that you build is with the consumer in mind, the agent gets the benefit of that. And
Mm.
there's no change there. But if your brand is in 12 or 14 different products, or you keep switching products over and over and over again, you're providing this brand inconsistency that consumers notice. Consumers notice inconsistency because they only pay attention to you maybe once or twice a year. And if you look different to them every single time they're paying attention to you, then they're wondering what's going on with your company. I think reduces predictability, leans into that data set as well. And it
Mm-hmm.
also, again, provides security issues. I think you have
Mm-hmm.
all this data, all this, potentially AI talking to consumers, all the things that, could happen, people hacking into your data, maybe even um, you have a situation where a hacker has basically said that, we're not going to give you access back to all this data unless you pay us millions of dollars. It's happened a lot recently. So removing seats or spreading those seats out amongst multiple products creates problems security wise, and I guess all of these here.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see there, Cheyenne?
No, I think that that's really well said. So, historically, as an example, we always hear that uh agents in this industry don't use a CRM, right? Like, I don't know, 80-90% of the agents, even if they have a CRM, they're not using a CRM, right? Now, the reality of it is that they are all using something. It's either their Excel spreadsheet or their phone book or something. They're using something, right? So
Yeah.
all these agents, if you're turning off their seats, right, they're going to go do their design in Canva. They're going to go manage their people and relationship on Instagram or on their phone and somewhere else. So they're going to use their own products or tools or however they can to get through the day, right? And as a result of that, and I think so before it was kind of like, whatever, right? But now it's becoming a lot more important because, well, if you have all these like 15, 20 different logins. So, we just recently worked with a company. They were providing 14 different products internally. And we did a survey with the company. And the number one product that was being used was not provided by the company, was WhatsApp. The second one was spreadsheet, Excel, right? And it was none of the products that the company was providing it. So when you start doing that, I think before, you're like, well, you have 10 different logins, 10 different places to go to. Some are connected to MLS, some are not connected, some are on your phone, some are not. But I think ultimately what it came down to is that it's when it's difficult, they won't use it. Now with the AI conversation, with the data centralization, I think all in all, it's just becoming a lot more important to be able to bring I mean, if you go to any other industry, you walk into any other business outside of real estate, folks are mandated. Obviously, our agents are, they're independent contractors. It's a little bit different. So we got to put more effort into giving them tools that they like to use and they wanna adopt and whatnot. But almost outside of our industry and all other industries, it's a mandate to use the products that have been given to you, and that helps to support better, to train better, to centralize the data and use AI on top of that. Anyways, I agree with all those stuff. Uh, and I think I'm going to go through, because what I want to do is I want to quickly just show you kind of like a little bit under the hood of what we do at Rechat. But I think the most important thing in terms of kind of determining success here is that we want to redefine success, right? We don't want to look at logins. We want to look at kind of, are we lowering costs? Are we higher? Are the sales are going up? Or are the retention stronger, right? We want to look at lead measures, right? Like, we know that there's a concept of lead and lag measures, right? The lead measure is that if I tell you I want to lose 10 pounds in a month, the lead measure is like, what's your calorie take in? Are you lowering your calories? Are you working out every day for real and all that, right? Because if you do that, then I believe that you're going to lose weight. But if you tell me, oh no, I've been drinking beer every day and eating hamburgers and I'm not working out, then that tells me that you're not going to lose 10 pounds. You're probably going to add 10 pounds, right? So are we measuring the lead measures? Are we celebrating birthdays and those touch points and anniversaries and all those little soft things that, again, if you're into ninja selling or anything that lets you stay on top of mind with your sphere, right? Are you marketing your listings the right way? Today, people need to see something in their email for 2 seconds and they jump on Instagram. They got to see it there. Then they got to click on a link and look at a beautiful landing page for it. Do you have all those components so you can kind of build a picture for them? Or because if you do, then that's going to result in revenue increase, better experience, better consistent branding. And I think connecting those dots is extremely important. Anything you want to add here, Derek?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. The experience is the most important part, right? For the user, for the consumer, and it all determines success or failure. But I think even just going up a little bit upstream before you even buy anything, determine what your business outcome is. Why are we doing this? What's the point of it? Then set your KPIs, then find the product that can help you achieve those goals. Then after you
Mhm.
acquire it, start measuring it. And that's, you know, having a great dashboard and all that really helps.
And it's not a single metric. It's you know, it's got to be more of a playbook play for you.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's just talk about a couple of things that we have seen will have a big impact in terms of driving adoption. So we've talked a lot about the tool itself. It's got to be simple. It's got to be beautiful, right, for people to use it. It's got to be consumerized. Like people like to use Instagram and Uber and Airbnb because they're easy to use, right? Every agent can use all these tools, so they're tech savvy enough to use those tools. Why are they not tech savvy enough to use your tools, right? If you match that, I think they will go with it. It needs to seamlessly integrate with your core systems, right? Whether it's your data sets, whether it's your transaction data or your MLS data or whatever it is, but it's got to be part of those workflows. In today's world, 90% of our work, I will say 99% of our work happens on the go. If all your solutions are not mobile, if they're not AI friendly and all of that, then it's not going far. So the first top row you see here is a lot on the product. And then the second row below that, it starts, you know, the leadership must champion adoption, right? It always starts from the top. If your leaders are not driving it, if this is not part of their core job to drive adoption, then it's going to be tough for your organization to drive adoption, right? And then in terms of you got to have great support. This you know, in this industry, the tools themselves are not enough. Agents need support, admin needs support. So you got to make sure that you're working with tech vendors that can provide that timely support. Not that I file a ticket and I hear back in 4 days. Everybody needs answers right now in this industry because their clients expect. I mean, these agents are our agents are getting calls at 10 p.m. from a client that needs an answer right now. They can't say, I filed a ticket, I'm going to hear next week from them, and whatever, they lose business, right? And then we touched briefly on training as well, but it needs to be multiple formats and it needs to be around real use cases. And one of the things that I think a lot of companies miss, and a lot of, not just on the broker side, but also the tech companies miss on the training, is that training is not a one-shot thing. A lot of companies come in, they do one presentation for onboarding and that's it. Well, that's just a fraction of, first of all, the agents. These brokers are recruiting all the time. When a new agent comes, do you have an onboarding program for that? Are they going to be introduced to your tools just like those agents were introduced the very first time you brought in the product, right? And as new features and products are rolled out, are you onboarding them on those as well? Because you can't just onboard on the core product and then just good luck with everything else as new products are coming out. So I think all of these are key components into what could make the adoption success go up. Anything
Yeah.
you want to add here?
Yeah. Well, so the first row is not something that necessarily the broker can control other than at the point of purchase, right? So choosing the correct partner is what they can do. The
Well,
bottom row
that's pretty important. Hold on, that's pretty important. So
is very
I
important.
spoke with, well, I spoke with a consultant a bunch of years ago. He said something I still remember. You know, he's like, he was trying to pitch his business to me, and I said, listen, like, this all sounds great, but we're doing like at 100 miles a minute going like this. And he's like, hey, my job is to make sure you're going in the right direction. Because if you go 100 miles a minute in the wrong direction, then you're not going to end up where you want to go. So I think it starts from picking the right products, but to your point, then after that, continue. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
well, it's important because the course correction is so difficult, right? At that point, specifically because most of these contracts are relatively long term. So if you pick the wrong path immediately, your course correction is going to be expensive and it's going to take too long to fix it. So again, to your point, it's very important to choose the right partner up front. The bottom part of that is leadership. And the interesting part of it is specifically around training and getting agents to use the tools, we start with the how, like here's how you do this and here's how you do this, but we haven't really started with the why. Why are we doing, like, why are we even needing a better way to create CMAs? Like, what's the point? What's the end goal? So communicating the why first, and then bring the how back to the why every single time that you're in training will make all the difference in the world on getting your agents to use the tools, because they're motivated. They should be motivated. The why should be aligned to their why. And if it is, it's an easy path to adoption.
Totally agree. And to that point, I think it's everybody knows this, that you can't manage what you can't measure, right? And if you're not measuring things, then they won't grow. And if you can't even see it, then you can't improve it, right? I mean, it's very basic. So one of the things that we focus on, and I just want to take a minute here to show you all this, because this is one of the most effective ways that we are working with our member clients to drive adoption. I'm hopping onto Rechat. Do you see my screen here, Derek?
Yeah, we
I
do.
just switched my screen. Okay, cool. So I'm in Rechat. Rechat is an operating platform for the brokerage and for the agents. Use it on all of your mobile phones, on the computer. And one of the key things about the product is that we have a people center, we have a full marketing center, a transaction center. So there's a different components to it. And it's important because what I want to show you is this. On top here, every account will have access to an adoption rate dashboard. Okay, I'm close this on the side. So you can, your agents will have access to this at their own level. The office will have access to this at the office level. You can get access to this at the team level. And the way it works is that you can kind of switch out to who you're looking at, and you can have the data range. Let me just load this. Oops, I'm actually not on that page. And you can change the range of the time that you want to see. It's a very effective way to measure the specific parts of what activities are being taken. And it's also a very strong way to be able to measure the, I think I've been on this page for too long. Let me reload it again. And it also, it's a great way to use it for coaching, because you can really drill down into the specifics of each account of what they all do. So you have specifics on marketing, specifics on the people center, on the even on the temp. So this is on the design side for the admins. Great. I don't know why my page is not loading.
It always happens when we're doing live demos.
I was just
You can
showing this
count
to
it.
2 seconds ago, huh?
I said every time you do live demos, you can count on something going wrong.
Okay, there we go. All right, there we go.
Just got to
So
acknowledge it, and then it works.
do you see it?
Yeah.
Are you able to? Okay. So, all right. So you get in that again, you can use this as an individual, you can use this as for the entire brokerage to get a sense of it. But what we really do is that we help you drill in month to month, day to day. Now, one of the advantages you have in Rechat is that you're able, as I'm hovering here, you can see email, social, Instagram, print, website. So you get like a really 360 view of all your different marketing initiatives. And that's kind of like going back to that data. If you're using multiple products, I highly recommend you work with your tech providers to see if you can kind of bring this into some sort of an analytical tool that you can pull all of these and start comparing them. But this gives you a really good understanding of how each part of the system is being used. And you can drill down into just not that, but like, if specific use cases, like in this case, like, are they using the product for promoting just listed listings that are just new to the market? Are they hosting their open houses, and what percentage of it being used, right? And now what we do is that what I really wanted to highlight here is that our account management team works closely with the broker team. And again, the leadership is key here. If they're not buying in, then we're not going, it's two to tango. So what happens is that they sit down and they say, what are our goals, right? So if you're a high-end brokerage, you have a ton of listings, you really want to be the best at marketing your listings, we focus on that. We take the metrics in, and then we work with you on specific programs, and the broker works on that as well to drive that adoption number up. So you meet on a weekly basis, you go through the numbers, and they do this on an individual level. They can do it from a coaching perspective with a team, or at a team level with their team, or with an agent, right? And work on those specific numbers to drive it up. But it's extremely important to have a full, like, videos, whatever it is that again matters to your company that you want to measure. On this side, this is for marketing initiatives. You want to also have a good understanding from your people. What are they, what are the touch points? How many how many different events are created, how many triggers are we having for their birthdays, for their anniversaries, are their accounts even connected? So all of these elements here are extremely important for you to measure in order to be able to actually drive, to be able to work on that adoption, right? To measure, to understand where you stand today, benchmark that, and then work together to move it up. And that partnership is extremely important.
It's a
I
perfect
close that up.
example.
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
perfect example of what we're talking about. Like at T360, we don't sell software. We talk about best practices and ways to improve the brokerage business and the industry in general. And what you just showed us was a way to measure adoption of a product in a much more granular way that can be easily translated into business objectives. And so I want to commend you on that dashboard. It's really good, Cheyenne. You guys have done a great job of displaying that, and it deserves to be called out. So really appreciate that.
Thank you. It does load fast. I gotta mention that. I don't know what happened right now. But that being said, I appreciate that, Derek, as well. Again, everyone, I would love for you to scan this QR, take 5 minutes, do the survey on your own. It's going to email you the results. Just give you a score, I believe, out of 35 or 40. That will give you a really good sense of how you're doing with adoption. The questions are pretty thoughtful as you go through that. You get a good sense of what are the sort of things you should care about way beyond login in order to understand how usage will connect to your core goals of whether it's growing business or recruit or whatever it is, right? So give that a try. And I think we're pretty much a little over time here as well.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go on the next slide because you can there's a QR for both me and Derek if you want to follow up with any questions. T360 is obviously, I think most of the folks here know T360, a very prominent, probably one of the most prominent actually, consulting firms and thought leaders on all these topics. So if you want to reach out to Derek, he'll be available to talk to you offline. And so I would love to as well have these conversations with you if anyone's interested.
Thank you, Cheyenne. Yeah. So let's do a couple closing thoughts. First of all, it's okay to say no to new tools. So as a broker owner, it's fewer tools may actually be better for optimization. So finding something that can accomplish the business goals that you need, really helpful. Also, my last two are the consumer's your customer, not your agent. The agents will get all of the benefits that you would get if you give the attention just to the agent. So focus on the consumer. And then secondly, effective technology enables behavioral control. So find a good technology that helps change the behavior of agents and consumers in a positive way. And I think you'll have much better results in the coming years with technology. Cheyenne, I'll let you close it out.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love your thoughts. I think there was a time in our industry that tech was a relatively new topic. So checking a box was good enough. I think we're well beyond that. And I think we're all sold on, and we know I hope we've shared enough numbers and facts with you to tell you that, it's obvious that you need to have your agents and your brokerage needs to be utilizing tools in order to be competitive. And for many different reasons that we talked about. And the tools should be tools that works for you, right? So if you have technology today, if it's ugly and old and whatever, but it happens to be used, don't change it, right? Like you don't need to change things. But if that's not the case, we are in a world today that there are some good tools out there too. So you should really explore what would make sense for your agents, what they're going to love to use, and really focus on that. And once you get it, you need to commit to it. It's like buying it when you get a dog, you just don't get a dog and then you just let it be. You need to nurture it. You need to be a part of that as it grows, as it becomes part of you. So you need to be a part of this thing. You need to invest in it to drive the adoption. And you need to make sure that your tech partner is obviously in tune with that. So they're not just selling the product and then walking to the next sale for them, but they're selling the product as the beginning of the relationship with you, that now they're going to actually go deep with you into and committed and invested into actually driving usage and adoption and value out of that product for your business. And we've been around for now 10 years, since 2015. And we have had hardly, maybe over this entire period, maybe 3 or 4 members that we've decided kind of, maybe this is not the right product for them. But I think a big part of that, which is really big, right? We all of our clients for years and years have stayed with us. And I think the main reason is the commitment on both sides. We've been lucky to work with the right partners that they also wanted to commit to this. But I think finding the right partner for yourself, whoever that is, whether it's Rechat or somebody else out there, but finding them that they're as committed as you, I think will go a long way, because that's what it takes to kind of drive adoption.
Great stuff. Thank you so much for doing this with us, Cheyenne. It was great.
Yeah,
Really
thank you both
appreciate it.
for being here, for sharing your insights. Thank you to everyone for joining us. Hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you all. Bye. Thanks, Derek.